Hello and welcome to the Woke is Broke podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Stanko. And our top headlines for today. Famed CNN producer is arrested for trying to get it on with little kids. Joe Biden appears on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and lies his butt off. And Chrissy Teagan posts naked photos of her kids while she herself is also naked. That's all happening today on the Woke is Broke podcast. But first, a little update for myself. I am now in Nashville. Got the move done on Friday. And you might have heard of the tornadoes that have been hitting the Midwest recently. So it's kind of funny. I actually got into the condo that I moved into literally a few hours before those started touching down in Tennessee. We could actually, at about 2 o'clock in the morning, could see it tearing shit up out there. So that was pretty interesting. I'd never actually seen a hurricane before or anything like that. So I'm fine. Fortunately, everything worked out good. Everyone that I know down here is fine. Thanks be to God. But obviously our hearts and prayers are for the people who weren't so lucky. We got reports right now of 6 people died in Illinois, 4 people died in Tennessee, over 100 died out in Kentucky, and obviously there's still a lot of people missing and injured. And our thoughts and prayers will be with everybody involved over that. But in the meantime, when we move on to the headlines here. So CNN just is having a really bad streak right now, just a really bad streak. First, you got the Chris Cuomo fiasco, them having to fire his ass, for claims of sexual harassment on top of, the fact that he aided his brother, then governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, in handling his PR problems amidst his sexual assault harassment allegations. And then you have Don Lemon calling up Jussie Smollett, letting him know, hey, we're going to be running some story about you, lying your ass off about these hate crimes. And, just giving him a big heads up. And now we have a CNN producer who worked alongside Chris Cuomo on his show, or prior to his private show, rather, some years ago. This guy, John Griffin, 44, was arrested by federal authorities for trying to get it on with kids. This is a statement by the DOJ. They said, Griffin utilized the messaging applications Kik and Google Hangouts to communicate with people purporting to be parents of minor daughters, conveying to them, among other ideas, that quote, a woman is a woman regardless of her age, and that women should be sexually subservient and inferior to men. On these communication platforms, Griffin sought to persuade parents to allow him to train their daughters to be sexually submissive. Now, I know what you're thinking, and honestly, we still don't know if this John Griffin guy happens to be one of the unvetted Afghani people that Biden brought over here after he bungled up Afghanistan. We still don't know that. Could be anything. But, honestly, this statement doesn't sum it up enough. Not really. There's a whole instance in which he allegedly paid a parent of a minor daughter $3,000 to fly that mother and her daughter out to New York, out to his house, where he then engaged in sexual acts with the minor daughter. And I guess we don't live in the day and age where it's like Michael Jackson raping kids and then just going right back to work, and everyone was totally fine with that. Now we have to actually punish people for shit like that. Apparently that's new now. Okay. That's good to know at the very least. What's not good to know is, nothing kills me more than just the hypocrisy of woke corporations like CNN, right? They violated the employee-employer boundaries, right? Because it's not the employer's responsibility to preach virtue or to invade themselves in your personal life, right? What you do in your personal life, so long as you're not breaking the law, like John Griffin, right? So long as you're not breaking the law, it's none of the business of your employer what you do in your personal life. It's not their business to be sitting you down and teaching you about diversity and equality and all the other crap that they decide is virtuous. That's not their job. But they crossed that line. They chose to cross that line anyways. That's the precedent that they set. And yet they're more than willing to overlook crap that their employers are doing when it comes to immoral shit like this. Right? I don't buy for a second that CNN had no idea that Chris Cuomo was helping his brother handle the PR situations amid the sexual allegation scandal. I have no belief that CNN did not know that Don Lemon gave Jussie Smollett a call before the investigation proceeded into the alleged hate crimes that he experienced, right? I have no doubt, honestly, that CNN didn't have some sort of knowledge of what this douchebag was doing, right? Because the reality is that when it comes to the progressive movement, when it comes to woke corporations, when it comes to things like your truth, social justice, and the progressive way, the reality is that your truth is not the truth. The reality is that there is no justice in social justice. And the reality is that the progressive way of life is detrimental to the American way of life because it seeks to move us towards emphasizing the collective, right? Rather than the individual, right? And that the idea of individualism, that's for the birds, right? The founding fathers, they were slave owners, they were racist. What the hell did they know? I mean, they only created a country that has separated itself from every other country that has ever existed before us or will ever exist after us because they emphasized the individual and individual rights and individual freedoms, and because they rooted this society in Judeo-Christian principles, right? But those guys were idiots. CNN, they know better, even if they have to turn a blind eye to, nepotism from Chris Cuomo and sexual harassment claims being made against him, or Don Lemon breaking ethics, you violating journalistic ethics in order to give a person that he's reporting on a heads up in advance, or even if it means, potentially overlooking pedophiliism in your own company. And I have a feeling that there's a lot more people like John Griffin, like Chris Cuomo, like Don Lemon at CNN, and they know it, and they probably don't give a shit. That's the reality of it. So it's just the hypocrisy kills me. I would say it's the hypocrisy that kills me more than anything. But I mean, if you've been watching the show, then you know I have a pretty soft spot when it comes to kids because they should be protected from people like John Griffin and from bastard employers like CNN. That's the truth too. That gets me more than anything. But a pretty close second is just the hypocrisy of it all, the grandstanding of it all, the lie that you care about virtue. No, you care about teaching people about diversity and equality and overlooking the grave moral sins committed by the people who work beneath you and your own grave moral sins. These people's moral compass is so unbelievably fucked up, I'd be surprised if they were able to find their way to the parking lot at the end of the day. Oh, God. But in other news, Jussie Smollett was found guilty out of 5 of the 6 charges brought against him, and I'm not really surprised. I think the whole situation with Jussie Smollett and the hate crime hoax that he committed is that it just goes to show just how stupid actors are, generally speaking, right? I mean, when you, like, full disclosure, I came up with cops. I went through a good amount of training in the anticipation of becoming a cop. I applied to be a cop. I applied to be a patrol officer back in my hometown of Manchester, New Hampshire, which at the time I didn't know that bigger departments typically don't take people without like military experience or previous law enforcement experience right out of the gate. But I mean, I ended up going back to school and starting up this company. So, I mean, it worked out for the best. But regardless, like I said, if I, as a cop, responded to a call, a hate crime call, in which a semi-famous homosexual answered the door wearing a noose around his neck, my first thought would not be, man, this is a real hate crime situation. No, it would be, man, this guy's into some kinky shit. And even that assumption would be more close to the reality of what happened to Jussie Smollett than his own account of what happened. That he is walking down the street at 2 a.m. to hit up Subway. Like he's Patrick in SpongeBob waking up at 3 a.m. for a Krabby Patty. He's just walking down the street to get to Subway for a Subway fixin' at 2 a.m. when 2 white supremacist Trump supporters in Chicago, one of the bluest cities in America, besiege him and put a noose around his neck. And he is so traumatized. He's so traumatized by all of this that he takes the noose off, then walks back to his friend's apartment, and then puts the noose right back on before the police show up. How unbelievably stupid do you have to be to gin up something as unbelievably ridiculous as that? I mean, honest to God, we're still waiting to hear what kind of punishment he's going to be getting. I hope to God he gets jail time because let's set the egregiousness of his crimes aside for a second. Just the stupidity. Somebody like that should not be walking around on the streets when you have an IQ that's in the negatives. Good freaking Lord. But in any event, moving on. So Joe Biden went onto the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And on a side note, I'll admit I never got the Jimmy Fallon thing, like ever. I mean, people say, oh, back in his day, he was kind of funny. It's like, no, he wasn't. All that guy did was crack up and laugh in every comedy skit he ever did. Every single one, he bust out laughing and broke character every single time. The man has no acting ability, no composure. He's a joke. He's not even a funny joke. He's just a pathetic, sad, fail upwards kind of a joke. But anyways, Joe Biden sat down with him on the Tonight Show and just proceeded to talk about his low approval ratings, right? And how it's really because of misinformation, right? Here's the quote from Joe Biden. It said, sorry, wrong page. He said, well, look, here's the deal. I think that we've been in office less than a year. A lot has happened. And look, people are afraid. People are worried. And people are getting so much inaccurate information to them. I don't mean about me, but about their situation. And I love that, right? We're getting misinformation about our situation, right? How the hell does that work? You can't get misinformation about your own situation because it's your situation. I drive a lot for a living, right? When gas was $1.89 last October in Savannah, and then it's $3.36 on average when I left Savannah the other day, that is not the gas station feeding me misinformation about my situation. That is gas being a lot more expensive and that impacting my situation in a very real way. When grocery prices skyrocket, that is not Market Basket, Kroger, Walmart, Aldi's feeding you misinformation. That is prices rising in real time and impacting your ability to feed your frickin' family. What does that even mean? Misinformation about your situation. It's your situation. Nobody is going to know your situation better than you. But honest to God, he continues. So they're being told that, that Armageddon's on the way. The truth is the economy's grown more than it has at any time in close to 60 years. The unemployment rate is down to 4.2% and it's going to go lower in my view. We got to stop this again. So here's another couple of lies about this. The economy has grown more than it has at any time in close to 60 years. Do you want to know why that is? It's because the economy was at zero last year. It was shut down. Nothing was happening. Right? So if you say, let's say the economy is operating at 1% of its full capacity, and then you start to open things up. You don't open all the way, right? Because you want to pay people to stay home and not work and continue unemployment benefits, right? You want to sign trillion dollar stimulus checks out to everyone, right? So you don't open up the economy all the way, all right? So you go from 1% and then increase it to, say, 30% of being open. Okay, well, hey, that's an economic growth right there of what? 3,000%? I mean, that's amazing. We've grown more than we have in 60 years. But we're still not operating at maximum capacity. That's why we still have millions of jobs available and nobody filling them. And he says the unemployment is at 4.2%. It's real amazing just how often Democrats dick around with the unemployment numbers. I remember when Obama was in office, right? And he was touting, it's like 6.5% unemployment, right? Which is easy to get that number when you don't include the people who've been unemployed longer than a year. You don't include the people who are no longer in the workforce, and you don't include the people who are no longer looking for work because there just aren't any jobs available. The reality is that the unemployment rate under Obama wasn't like 6% or some such. It was actually like 13, 14% when you get right into it. And this 4.2%, it's a bunch of crap because it doesn't count the people who aren't looking for work right now because they have a bunch of money in the bank from all the stimulus checks that they've been getting. And now the unemployment things are starting to run out and people are right now gradually starting to go back into the workforce. But this 4.2% is bullshit. This economic growth in 60 years, that's bullshit too. He's just lying to you about these so-called achievements. He says, we do have inflation on things that in fact matter to people's lives. Oh, glad he's starting to address that. When you show up at a gas station and it's $3.50 at your pump, although now that I took 50 million barrels out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the gasoline is down below $3 in many places. It's going to come down, it's going to move. Again, another flat out lie. He released, what did he say? 50 million barrels of petroleum from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, right? And guess how many barrels of petroleum Americans use on average in this country every day? This is according to the U.S. Energy Information. We use 18.19 million barrels of petroleum a day. So he effectively released, what, like 3.5, 4.5 days worth of oil? Do you really think that's why gas is starting to come down? Hell no. The Wall Street Journal, they released what's actually causing the lower gas prices right now. They said unusually warm weather pushed U.S. natural gas futures down 11% on Monday morning to around $3.68 cents per million British thermal units. That is down more than 40% from October's peak, erasing a run-up that stoked fears of exorbitant heating bills biting into household budgets and manufacturers' balance sheets already stressed by broad inflation. And here's the key sentence in this report. Prices climbed has reversed thanks to an uptick in domestic production and the unseasonably warm weather that has delayed heating season in much of the country. Mother Nature's bailing Joe Biden out on the gas prices right now, and he's sitting there and telling you it's because he released 3.5 days worth of fuel for the American people. That, at best, would lower the price 1, maybe 2 cents, maybe a couple of pennies, not 50 cents, not down below $3, right? Clearly, global warming, which is totally and absolutely a thing, and not anything that was just ginned up by people who have been totally and completely inconsistent in their predictions of the weather, right? Clearly, global warming is what's saving the Democrats from the situation that they're in because they created it. This is absolute insanity. And he concludes this ridiculous speech on Fallon's show by saying, "My job is to be straightforward, shoot from the shoulder, let people know exactly what the truth is, and lay out how I'm going to try to make life better for them." Okay, his job is not to tell the truth. His job is to tell you what the truth is, right? What he wants you to believe what he tells you. That's it. That's what the truth is to Joe Biden. It's like freaking thought police out of an Orwell novel, for God's sakes. He just stood up there and lied in this entire speech about why his ratings are low, about why people's lives are worse off today than they were before he was in office, about why the gas prices have been going down, about inflation, about the economy growth, about unemployment. He lied about every single thing, and he has the audacity to say that his job is to tell the truth. No, his job is to tell people to believe what he wants them to believe. That's what his job seems to be since he's taken office, since he started running for office, for God's sake. And not to mention, it's this last line. And to lay out how I'm going to try to make life better for the American people. That is not your job. Your job is to stay the hell out of my way and let me live my life in accordance with the laws and the constitutions of the United States of America. Your job is to lead the military, it's to lead our government, and it's to stay the hell out of the way of the individual, because that is the minority that laid the foundation of this country, is the individual conscience. God, it's just the self-aggrandizing, the idea that because you're president, that means you're God. That means that you need to be running everything for everyone. You don't have that right. You don't have the right to tell me what my rights are, what freedoms I should and shouldn't be allowed to have as long as it's inconvenient for you, right? We gotta suspend your religious exemptions. We need you to take medicine that you don't want, right? We need you to believe that the economy's grown more than it has in 60 years, despite the fact that you're paying more at the pump, more at the gas station, that your wages are lower. We need you to do this and do that because it's convenient to us, and we are in charge, and we have that right to suspend your rights. No, you don't. This is absolute insanity. It's despicable. It's absolutely despicable. And people got to call him out on this. I mean, honest to God, this is just wild stuff right here. That was his performance on Jimmy Fallon's show, neither of whom could act for shit or tell the truth for shit. And, that was that update for you right here. But really, we're going to wrap up today going over the skid mark of the week. Chrissy Teagan, for those of you who don't remember, she had a line of cookware at Target, right? You know, she was sort of famous lady. I don't really pay attention to her because she was just nobody to me. But you might remember her as the lady who bullied and berated and tried to get underage girls to commit suicide. by bullying them on social media, actually asking them to kill themselves, right? That I want to see you buried in the grave. Crap like that, just wildly ugly stuff. She posted a photo of her and her children, a 3-year-old son, Miles, and 5-year-old daughter, Luna, in the bathtub, and all of them were naked. You know, from my own experience, I can tell you that when I was 2, my brother was 1, that our mom gave us both a bath in the same bathtub at the same time. What she didn't do was also take off her clothes and hop in there with us because she's not a degenerate freak. I don't know what the hell Chrissy Teagan's doing here other than just being a disgusting and despicable human being. And maybe a woman who bullies and berates, bullies underage girls into trying to commit suicide shouldn't be raising children. Maybe that kind of behavior speaks to behavior that might pop up like this, where she's just naked with her children, hanging out and taking photos. I mean, I just remember with fondness looking back at the time when my dad would make me take my clothes off and just take pictures of me. I mean, honest to God, this is just freaking insane. Friggin' insane. I mean, don't ever let anyone tell you that Hollywood knows anything about anyone or anything generally speaking. They don't know a thing or two about a thing or two. They know nothing. They know absolutely nothing. They know nothing about values, nothing about morals. I know about those things, which is why you come here to watch my show. So please take my word for it. I know everything about 1 or 2 things. Anyways, that wraps up our show for today. I hope that you're staying safe, staying warm, and fighting inflation as best as you can. But in any event, we will catch you another time. I am your host, Joshua Stanko, saying stay safe, stay informed, and God bless. We'll catch you next time.